For 40 years they had wandered in the wilderness. The Israelites had come to the Jordan River, the threshold of the promised land. Not knowing the way, they followed the priest who carried the Ark of the Covenant. When the priest's feet hit the river waters, they ceased, as had happened at the Red Sea. And so they passed over on dry land. The God at work then was the God at work now. After renewing the covenant, they celebrated the Passover, that event when they were freed from the Egyptians. Then they ate of the fruit of the promised land. The provisional food of the manna ceased, and the reproach of Egypt was removed. You are nothing but slaves, they've been told for centuries. But now, no more. The Israelites were finally free. Now, Jewish commentators speak of these wilderness years, this time, these 40 years, as a time in which the Israelites were learning to assume the responsibilities associated with freedom. They had lived in slavery. Every choice had been dictated to them. Now, in this space of the wilderness, which the commentators call a liminal space, it's like an in-between space. It's like kind of the space of the teenage years. You're not a child, but you're not yet an adult. And so you're assuming gradually the responsibilities of adulthood to help you mature so that when you are out on your own, you can choose wisely with the freedom given to you. So they said it was with the Israelites. They were learning to choose, learning how to live with freedom, but often finding out that they were not yet capable of assuming those responsibilities, which came out in pivotal events, like when they sent the spies over into the promised land to look at it. And they came back, and across the board, virtually, they spread disparaging results. I mean, it flows with milk and honey, but there are people there that we cannot withstand, armies that we cannot succeed past. And so, the challenges of freedom they were not prepared for, the rigors, the hardships, and what was their desire again and again but to return to Egypt, to that autocratic rule, which in a sense was easier for them. No, those who were born in slavery were not able to assume the responsibilities of freedom. Only those who were born during those 40 years in that liminal space of the wilderness could inhabit the promised land. And note of freedom also sounds in our gospel. The younger son, he understood that freedom was the ability to choose whatever. Give me everything that would come to me when you die, Dad. He wanted to live by himself and for himself, with no restrictions whatsoever, which ultimately landed him in that space that was different from that of the Israelites, a different type of false freedom, a libertinism. Any choice. That's the way to be free, and yet he found that's the way that I am enslaved. I have nothing left except for these deep-seated habits or addictions that I cannot get free from. That false freedom rings into our own day, does it not? With those deep-seated habits or addictions of drink, of pornography, just of scrolling ceaselessly and shopping and finding that we have wasted so much of our day. But the young brother, the scripture says, came into himself. He realized that his identity is wrapped up in being part of his father's household, being a son, and so he returns. to that place in which there is structure, in which there are rules that allow for true freedom. Friends, with that said, the father and the second son, the older brother, have a special relevance for us, it seems to me, as we as a country sort through current debates, from tax breaks and incentives for families to supporting foreign nations. The older brother, of course, is angry with his dad's mercy. Had he known he could get away with breaking the rules, it seems he would have. The older brother was resentful and wanted to be away from dad too. In his heart, he didn't value what the father valued. The older brother's scale of values was skewed compared with his dad's. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him, you slaughter the fattened calf. Look at the waste of money and material wealth. They're more valuable than your son's conversion and freedom. They are more valuable than your mercy and that stupid celebration at his return, the older brother is implying. You're being taken for a fool. We're being treated unfairly by him. But isn't the loss of wealth worth the higher values of conversion, freedom, mercy, and love the Father seems to be pleading? Sometimes life requires sacrificing lesser goods so that greater goods can grow. Which we know something about with our building projects. It reminds me of my dad. And here's a little known fact. When I was in high school, I used to install car stereos. Those ones that really annoy you, that are really loud. They enter into your home, to your head. You can't get them out. So I used to do that, design and install them in other cars and in the car that my parents gave to me. I learned something, about electronics and the car and carpentry, building those big boxes in the back. It wasn't my car, really, to use in that way, but Dad didn't prohibit me from doing that. Was it the best use of money? Not the best use of money, but it's as though he sacrificed a lesser good for the possibility of a greater good, wisdom, understanding the worth of money and of property. The same thing could be said when I wanted to trade that car, which was not titled in my own name. Right? He had the control. He held all the cards, if you will, but he allowed me to maybe make a mistake or to learn from the control and the resources that he relinquished. Friends, at the end of the day, the questions become, what's enslaving you? What's binding you? Which responsibilities are you failing to assume? Kids, you can see this clearly in your life in the house. What chores am I failing to assume? What responsibilities do I shirk? Well, I'm saying I'm not capable or ready for real freedom. Where is your freedom threatened? How are true values being skewed? Where's your time being misspent? Friends, the Father is anxious to welcome you home too.